Sir, will anyone be joining? Good evening, Anjaya Garu.
Yes, good evening, sir.
ఇంకా ఎవరైనా జాయిన్ అవుతారా? స్టార్ట్ చేద్దామా? ఇంకా 2 నిమిషాలు చూసి స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం. Anjay garu. Okay, Anjay garu, we will begin.
Okay, sir.
Is my screen visible to you, Anjay garu?
Yes, sir. Unit 2, Mass Media Literacy.
Okay. Fine. Yesterday we have seen basic concepts or introduction to media literacy. Today we dwell more on mass media literacy, in which we talk about mediated communication. We talk about different types of literacies. We will see as and when we progress with the slides. Okay, I'm just repeating mediated communication because it's very important point for next slide. Mediated communication has two distinct sides. Number one, content production, that which is from media organization. Content reception, that which is from audience. Okay, media organization can have control over content production but not content reception, because content reception is from the point of view of audience, and audience have their own ways to interpret, their own ways to receive the information, process the information. Receiving, processing, interpreting depends on the background that the person is coming from. It's a social and cultural backgrounds, economic background. That's what mentioned here. See, when a news report is published in a newspaper, the content may be same for any reader, but the meanings derived from the content may differ from individual to individual. The way I perceive a particular news may not be the same the way the other person perceives. There are various factors determining it: cultural, socio-economic backgrounds, educational background, psychological or mental backgrounds, whether he is able to think, reflect, even political, religious backgrounds. This means in mediated communication, an organization produces content but has no power to regulate or guide the interpretation of the content by the readers. A newspaper is the combined product of several media industries, like newspaper itself, news agency which supplies news, like we have number of news agencies, Press Trust of India, for example. Advertising agencies which buy advertising space in newspapers. Ogilvy and Mather, Mudra ad agency. We have a number of ad agencies. A printing plant, news photo agency. Okay, these are media industries that are combined with a newspaper. The reader does not automatically accommodate all the content. He has preferences and choices. As I mentioned in the previous class, selective reception, selective perception, selective attention. The particular person wants to see what he or she wants to pay attention to. What particular he or she wants to keep in mind. It's dictated not by any uniform or static criteria, but by his demographic background, where he or she is coming from. Urban, rural, semi-urban. Where is or he coming? Where she or he is coming from. The second aspect is the usefulness of the content for him. For example, those days, school days, I was only reading sports news because that was thing which I felt useful for me to have a dialogue with my friends. Next aspect is his membership on a social group that he or she belongs to. So mediated communication rests on a content production system and content reception system, but media has no control over media reception system. Therefore, the difference between mediated and interpersonal communication is the existence of two independent systems. The content in mediated communication is created by media institutions. Here, with regard to example, is newspaper, and influenced by other institutions like education, like business, like politicians, governments. Okay, newspaper media is influenced by them. Similarly, the persons who created content, that means the editorial staff, have little power over the interpretation of messages by the reader or the receiver, because horizon of meanings take place. Each individual has the capacity to generate number of interpretations on a particular news item, on which media institutions have no control over or power over. Another characteristic of mediated communication is the distance that separates it from the receiver. The distance that it separates from the receiver. Content is created with predetermined assumption regarding the receiver's preferences. Yes, I have my own preference to select a particular newspaper. I have my own preference to watch particular news channel. Each individual is governed by his or her preferences in terms of media selection. The feedback which is necessary to revise or reform assumptions regarding consumer preferences is not immediate and direct. Though letters to the editor are some indications of receivers' satisfaction or dissatisfaction, they are scarce and delayed responses. So what comes to aid for media institutions to do an audience research is readership or audience research. Okay, readership and audience research. There are separate agencies who are employed to do these kind of works. The loss of face-to-face interaction makes meaning sharing. The loss of face-to-face interaction makes meaning sharing impossible. In mediated communication, there is no mechanism by which an audience can accomplish a shared understanding with the producers of content on an individual level. There cannot be the same meaning between the producer of the meaning to the receiver of the meaning. Sometimes it can correlate, but most of the time they are different. Media outreach structures and various personnel who work in creating, processing, and producing the content for readers, listeners, and viewers based on its own organizational policy. Because, for example, newspaper has its own organizational structure. Newspaper has its own organizational structure. They have different departments: editorial department, news desk, advertising, marketing. Likewise, they prioritize the news in terms of headlines and placement of stories in newspaper pages and news bulletins. Whenever we think of print media, especially news, we need to consider about one yes, that is space. Space matters. The word count matters. How many words are included in your news story? And the priority is given based on headlines and placement of your story. Is it on front page or in the middle pages? With the advent of technology, the news is also covered in live with the help of outdoor broadcast van or digital satellite news gathering van. Okay, live coverage of about a particular news is given. The other end, the receivers or the mass media audiences are receiving the content depending on their individual interests and needs. Though the media provides the content, it is in the hands of the receiver whether to watch it or not. This decision is based on the particular individual's needs, interests. Individuals also use different types of media depending on their motivations, communication purpose, institutional factors, and situational factor. For example, I have laptop, but I have no TV. But I wanted to watch news on TV rather than on Laptop, a situational factor. Situational factor. Okay. Some certain people watch only certain news. They don't, for example, those who have bent their towards party watch only particular television channels. Persons who have purpose with regard to communication, only they want to watch films, news, anything with regard to films. If they want to write or communicate or comment, review, so they have a communication purpose. Institutional factors where they are part of. The people are also inclined to use a particular medium of communication if others associated with them use that medium. For example, suppose I want to come, I am not a frequent user of social media, but the person who are frequently using social media to communicate, to share, to interact, they communicate. Maybe, for example, they must have watched major film, so immediately they give their own reviews. Immediately they give their own views. Now, today in the afternoon, I just browsed the in short news that the Telangana government has received or got permission to get money on a loan in order to give salaries. So it's a good news. So hence, people can share, communicate. The 5 communication purposes are coordination. For example, now Mr. Girigaru has allotted classes for us, and we are in constant communication with him, coordinating whether the classes are being happening or not. This one purpose. Knowledge sharing with the help of discussions, with the help of interactions with students. Information gathering. Suppose I want to prepare more on media literacy, I need to gather information in order to communicate. Relationship development. We indulge in communicating with others to develop our own relations, our own network. Conflict resolution. If there is any conflict between family members, among family members, between two friends, try to communicate. That's what most of the people say. Communication, a proper communication solves a lot of problems. Institutional factors include the physical structure of work units, social structure, and incentives. And situational factors include task characteristics, message content, and urgency. They are part of different types of media depending on their individuals' preferences. At workplaces, face-to-face communication is a form of communication very commonly used than the mediated communication. But even then, we use, for example, in an official setting, though we communicate face-to-face, there is no evidence. Hence, we send mails as part of documentation. We make phone calls in order to complete that particular work. In an office setup, but it is a mediated communication. In addition to mass communication, new phenomenon happen to be used by human beings for the purpose of communication or disperse information in the form of text, visuals, and video. So these days, constantly and consistently, people use social media in order to communicate or in order to share update about life via text, visuals, or videos. It's become very common. Unlike mass communication, social media are accessible to almost everybody. Anybody and everybody can have access. Anybody and everybody can have access. Okay. Here, there is no need of costly printing presses or broadcast equipment like printing press. We need to have a certain type of gravure printing, offset printing machines to print newspapers. Or broadcast in order to television production. You need to have cameras, computers to edit, green mat to have our own virtual backgrounds. Whereas with social media, it is not the case. Through so with the help of an internet enabled computer, smartphones, tabs, etc., one can send information across the globe with the help of social media. Through mobile technologies, interactive communication between the individuals have become worldwide. Okay, today through WhatsApp, I'm able to communicate with my relative who is in Japan, who is in Hong Kong, thanks to information technologies, mobile technology, internet. This interactive exchange of user-generated content, led to the term social media, which include Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of which are relatively inexpensive to individuals to publish or find information and exchange information. Okay, for example, in order to fulfill the need of online classes, we have subscribed to internet. Okay, per month it is around 872 rupees. Okay, per month 872 rupees. Worth spending 30 days into 24 hours. You have internet connection in order to equip yourself, in order to do the needful with regard to academics. Or if you are very much social media active on social media, you can publish, you can upload your own video content, you can find information, share information, exchange information. Social media is capable to reach the target groups, individual audiences dispersed throughout the globe. I like with the social media, one of the advantages with social media, what I have been seeing is YouTube channels, particular channels you have based on your interest, like for example dance. Okay, for example dance. No, my child likes to dance, so I tend to give show her one particular YouTube channel where two twins girls do performance very well. The latest songs are that's possible. Okay, you're able to reach, you're able to get that particular content. Okay, who is doing whose dance is shot in USA, and you're able to have access in Hyderabad and then show to your daughter. It requires only skills to produce messages or communicate, and have access to internet enables platforms to reach the audience with the target messages which can be consumed by the global audience. For example, as I see here, my class is live streamed on YouTube. Okay, if the link is shared with people who are abroad, they can have access at any time. Communication through social media. Communication through social media is mediated. But unlike mass communication, social media are accessible to almost anybody. You don't need costly printing presses or broadcast equipment, as I mentioned in the previous slide. With only an internet-ready computer or smartphone, individuals can create content that can be tapped into worldwide. You can create your own videos and upload them on social media like YouTube, social media like Facebook or Instagram, sharing your own thoughts, sharing your own opinions, sharing your own interpretation of a particular text or a film. Social media or internet based. Without internet, it is not possible. Without internet, it is not possible. Hence, it is called as internet based. Through mobile technologies, they turn communication into interactive dialogue. This interactive exchange of user-generated content led to the term social media. So, I mean, interactive in the sense there is, you have shared certain posts, there is interaction through comments, through shares, through likes. Leading examples are Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of which are relatively inexpensive to individuals to publish or find information and to exchange information, in contrast to industrial media, that which is newspaper or broadcast media. Both mediated forms of communication, whether through mass media or social media, can reach tiny or huge audience. As I said, we have different literacies for media consumers. Okay, what are the different literacies we see here? First one is linguistic literacy. Linguistic literacy. The act of creating mass media messages and deriving meaning from them, called as media literacy, where audience required vocabulary, grammar, and other writing and reading skills, both teachable and learnable, not anything inborn in a person from birth. Okay, how do you generate meaning? By reading a particular text. I just want to give you an example here. Yeah, here I hope you understand the Telugu. Tapping. Now, as soon as we have a as soon as we have access to this particular page, what captures our eyes is that particular word which is bolded. Tappinchara. It's a linguistic sign. It's a linguistic sign. Tappinchara. What is the meaning of Tappinchara? Have you made him or her escape? Again, we don't understand at a glance unless we know the information about it prior. If you want to know more, we will have to go through the entire news item. Then only we will understand. We will understand. After having gone through this new news item, so you should be able to be in a position to analyze what it is, who has done it, who are its audience, what is the purpose of this. Then you will be able to have that linguistic literacy. Sorry. Yeah. Next one is film literacy. Audiences learn to understand on-screen portrayals or characters and eventually learn how to overcome confusion about visual clues to flashbacks. It's very, very, very clear. The portrayal of women in films, simply to understand how the women are portrayed. That's what we study. Laura Mulvey, who talks about male gaze, before camera, behind the camera, everywhere is a man who looks at woman. Okay, you need to understand this, how the women are portrayed in films, how the particular community is portrayed in films. Even the characters, the social background, you can understand why only the particular character is chosen for this. How the characters are named after. No, recently, not recently. A few months back, we had a discussion why all the villains are named after Reddys. So, if you have this bent of mind, you will be a film literate. Question: the techniques like flashbacks, visual clues, etc., later used in television too, of course, are like, okay, techniques. Okay, we have green mat, usage of green mat. Okay, what you watch news, television news, the background is not real. They shoot against the green mat and then they edit it with the virtual background and then project to the audience. That's one example with regard to techniques and technology. Along with that, the use of text subtitles also enable the audience to understand the film and presentation of visuals on screen. Suppose I don't understand Hindi very well. So with the help of English subtitles, I will be able to follow the story completely. Of course, Visuals speak more than the text. Even in order to know film literacy also focuses from the point of view of thematic analysis, okay, cinematic analysis, technological analysis. What is the technology that is involved? Okay, from the point of view of shots, angles, okay, lighting, even costumes. These are all semiotic signs which communicate a message. Audience infer meanings from these signs. Next one is visual literacy. We have already discussed about it. With an example from an advertisement. Okay, I'm not going to dwell more on it. Next is assessing media messages. Media literacy is the application of knowledge and critical thinking process by the media audiences. It is applying, you are able to apply your mind, questioning mind about a particular news item, about a particular film, about a particular incident, about a particular person. The fundamentals include recognizing message form. I have shown you just in the previous slide, I have shown you Tappinchara, the news item. So how the message is carved, framed. We need to recognize the form. Why only focused on Tappinchara? That means what is the underneath message that they want to communicate to people? Not confusing messages and messengers, understanding the possibilities and limitations of various media and platforms. Okay, understanding the possibilities and limitations of various media and platforms, and placing media in a framework of history and traditions. Media literacy also requires continued questioning of conventional wisdom. Why it is so? Why not this way? Why not this way? Why only this way? So when you question this conventional mindset or conventional wisdom, you must have courage to face it. You must have courage to face it. You must have courage to face it, because you will come to know you will have a lot of stones thrown at you. Just because you are media literate, you need to have strength or courage to share that literacy with others, to enlighten people with your critical thinking skills. Media literacy is possessing the knowledge to be competent in assessing messages carried by mass media. Okay, for example, here I have shown you one media message. This is Tappinchara. I have gone through it. Okay, here the issue is one Romanian girl is gang raped. One Romanian girl is being gang raped. Okay, police have found the person who is behind it, and they have arrested him, and he happened to be the son of an MLA. You know who is that particular, but you have not mentioned here. What are you trying to communicate? What is the propaganda behind it? That means the powerful people can escape because you have power, because you have money, you have wealth. That's what Noam Chomsky said. So you need to have this competency to assess messages. Media literacy is essential for the media consumers to understand and perceive messages, because we consume every minute, every second we consume messages at every second through one way or the other, Most of our media exposure is invisible. That means we don't, there is visibility. Okay, there is visibility, but we don't tend to give much attention to it. For example, billboards at Khairatabad junction. So billboards will be there very big, very big, very big. They are there. If we happen to stand at the traffic, then we pay attention to it. Otherwise, we just have a look, but we don't give attention. We don't give that much attention. It goes unnoticed. It goes unnoticed consciously or unconsciously. Many media messages blur our landscape as part of the environment that we take for granted. We take it for granted. Okay, chalta hai, chalo. We take it for granted. Though we are educated, sometimes educated people also make foolish decisions. That's where the messages blur our vision to distinguish between two things. One measure of media literacy is awareness of the presence of media messages. So we need to be aware. That particular persons are there behind particular media institutions. So this particular person is involved, hence it is framed this way. So the person from the present ruling government is involved, hence it needs to be framed this way, not attacking the ruling party. Fundamentals for media literacy are message form. The ability to see the difference between a one-on-one message and a mass message. One-on-one message will be more, if it is conversational, if it is personal, it will be different. It's an official, it's a very different language. It takes ultimately a different format. Whereas mass message also takes a different format altogether. Mass message takes a different format altogether. It can be a photograph, it can be a video, it can be a written text. Message versus messenger. The news reporter who is telling a story or explaining a horrible event or criticizing a movie director for making an unpleasant movie, media literacy requires distinguishing between messages and messenger. What is the message and who is the messenger? Who is the messenger? What is his or her intentions in producing that particular film? What is the meaning that he or she wants to communicate through this film? You should be able to distinguish between what's the message and who is the messenger. A writer who deals with the drugs culture is neither an advocate nor necessarily a rapper who conjures up clever rhymes for myth. Motivation awareness. Intelligent use of mass media requires assessing the motivation for a message. Is a message intended to convey information or convince an audience to change his buying behavior? Motivation awareness. Okay, sometimes it's called point of purchase. We don't have any motivation to buy, but at the spur of the moment, by looking at that, we get some sort of feeling to buy it. We change. So we need to be aware of this motivation. Media limitation. Each media has its own potential and limitations in conveying messages to its audience. For example, books, movies, television, radio, etc. Okay, radio has its own limitation. Okay, it cannot present visuals. It's only oral medium, only for ears. Based on its effectiveness in conveying a message, the messenger chooses different mediums to reach the different target groups with needed information. For example, when a particular person wants to reach to its audience, Okay, he will do a media selection based on the research that he has done on his audience. Media selection, media vehicle. So, for example, television is a media selection. Okay, what would be your media vehicle? ETV is a media vehicle. Sakshi TV will be a media vehicle. So he will choose according to according to his own research in order to communicate to a particular audience, that's target group. Media myth: video games are the latest whipping boys for violent crime. The fact is that the oft heard conventional wisdom that media violence begets real life violence has never been proved, despite hundreds of serious studies by social scientists. It is repetition of what is present on screen. People tend to think that what is shown on screen is practiced off screen, but it is not the case. Media myths galore are afloat, polluting intelligent dialogue and understanding of important issues, including media violence. Spheres of media literacy. Spheres of media literacy. Media literacy takes many forms. People who craft media messages, for example, need technical competence. Technical competence. For example, you need to know at least grammar if you want to write in any language, that is subject, verb, object to construct a sentence. Okay, certain professional jargons are to be used with regard to written text. Then there will be a structure. If it is news item, inverted pyramid structure. The most important detail to the less important detail. Okay, you need to have this competency. The technical competency with regard, if you are editing a video, you need to know what software will be of great help for you to edit a video. Are you competent enough to do it? Mastery of editing software is essential for magazine editors, okay, InDesign or CorelDRAW. Okay, these are skills that a media consumer does not need. A media consumer does not need, but media producer has to employ persons who are adept at it in order to prepare that. In fact, the more invincible the technical details of media production are to media audiences, the more effective. This is absolutely true. For example, if you include a lot of transitions in your films, you are giving an indication that you have done editing. Hence, the editors do not incorporate many transitions unless it is needed. It is needed. If the person is using more transitions, that means he is a novice in editing. At the same time, media consumers can have a deeper appreciation of media messages if they have a sense of what went into making the message. That's true. Suppose a person who has studied mass communication and journalism would know how a television news bulletin is produced, would know how a film is made. Hence, he or she will start appreciating the work before actually criticizing it. Likewise, a science student would not know what has gone into making a film. Hence, he will make a general judgment. There is a difference between a person coming from media background, a person without media background. What are the purposes of mass communication? Okay, mass communication has a purpose. Number one, information. Okay, sharing of information. Next is correlation. There is a correlation between the news. Okay, in the front page, particular news is given and it is related to the other news. The persuasion, you are persuading people to think about particular issue. You are persuading people to talk about a particular issue. You are persuading people to raise your voice against a particular issue. Transmission of culture by watching television shows, having access to foreign content. We are able to get acquainted with new cultures. Okay, we are not only getting acquainted, some try to put into practice. Next is entertainment. All of you know that. Mobilization, amusing, and enlightenment. Much more important is enlightenment. Our minds and hearts get enlightened by having access to media content, especially especially the content related to social change. This is all with regard to unit 2. We will proceed with the unit 3. So unit 3 focuses on types of effects in media literacy. Types of effects in media literacy. Okay, media effects are happening all around us every day. Okay, every individual has experienced media effect. Okay, it could be physical, it could be psychological, it could be cultural. Okay, it can take any form. It could be attitudinal, it could be behavioral. Okay, all of us have experienced that media effect. Media literacy on interactive platforms. Interactive media literacy is the ability to use devices, okay, like mobile phones, laptops, okay, smartphones, laptops, to access internet, for which you need to subscribe to internet facility in order to have access to internet on laptop or smartphone with the help of service providers. It covers accessing websites and apps. Okay, you can have access to Google. Okay, you can have access to Internet Explorer. Okay, service. Not through which we will be able to access like various sites, and applications too in the mobile phone. Suppose you want to listen to music, VLC player, MX player, Google Music. Okay, navigating through them to access content and understanding to some extent how and why someone published that content online. Okay, we have access to social media, we have access to YouTube in specific. Okay, we not only accessing, watching particular videos, we will be able to question why they are doing. It's a one way to generate income. The content you access on a website was put there by someone for a purpose. That purpose can be educative, that purpose can be economic, that purpose can be personal interest. And the hyperlinks are chosen to direct you somewhere specific. Okay, the post on a YouTube channel, the particular link is given, and you frame a post on it, and then post it on Facebook or Instagram, so that people who have access to your particular social media handle can watch it. Interactive media literacy is looking specifically at platforms such as Facebook or Twitter and learning how to critically analyze the content published here from a technical, cognitive, and emotional angle. Technical, what is the algorithm that is used? For example, you must have access to Flipkart to buy shoes. Same shoes appear in Facebook also. That's called remarketing. Until you buy that particular, until you order that particular product, comes on your page. The technical aspects center on being aware of how the platform works. That means how the algorithm is written, who can post what content, how it can be interacted with, and the underlying algorithms ultimately. that present certain users content to you. Okay, only certain users content. See, for example, I have certain hundreds of friends, but do I see those hundreds of friends? Again, the priority is there. Priority is there. Whose content to be shown at first? Cognitively, you need to be able to identify what reliable source on social media is by looking at. Okay, you are having access to particular news item. You need to check the source. First of all, is it fake or fact? Who has written it? Who has written it? Kindly come to know first the source and then start reading and reflecting. For example, the user's bio, the number of followers, the date when they joined, offline affiliations. Lastly, social media literacy is also about being aware of your emotions and how you react to specific content and interactions. Social media literacy is very, very, very essential, students, in today's context. In today's context, getting to know the settings is very, very important. Enabling two-factor authentication is very, very important. Very, very important. Otherwise, easily our accounts are hacked. Easily our accounts are hacked, and illegal activities are done in the name of our accounts. The ability to critically think about social media posts and online news stories makes you an educated consumer of these products. Okay, you are an educated consumer. Okay, your education should not stop only copying and pasting, but it should go beyond copy and paste. You should be able to interact. You should be able to interpret. You should be able to analyze the message that is portrayed. Some questions to ask yourself when analyzing interactive media posts. Who made this post? That's the first question. Who made this post? There is always a creator of content online. So always the creator will be there. In some cases, it is not the individual whose account is, but rather an organization or company. It's possible, okay? Because you're part of a group, you're, for example, St. Francis College for Women, I'm part of. Okay. So kindly identify who made this post. Why has it attracted my attention? Why has it attracted? What grabbed my attention? Is it the person who is in the photo, or is it the name in the written text? What has attracted? Is the creator using specific techniques? Are they working on my emotions or responding to my unconscious fears or biases? To go a little more deeper, how am I interpreting the message in this post? How am I interpreting? Am I interpreting based on political agenda, based on social, cultural, educative? Will other people understand it in the same way what I'm thinking? Or can different people see different messages in this content? For example, I have shown you Tappinchara, that news item. After having read it, I said it is a political affiliation is present. The powerful have played a major role in suppressing the news. Okay. What values are foregrounded in the post? What's the value? If you are powerful, the news will be compromised. Lastly, why was this post made at all? To inform, just to inform that such an event has happened, with regard to the example that I have shared in the previous slides. The media literacy sector encompasses a broad range of organizations, including online platforms, civil society organizations, news organizations, academia, public services, regulators, and government. All these organizations are there. Each stakeholder group plays a distinct role within the sector that we want to encourage and support. We also want to see increased coordination of the sector to bring together different stakeholder groups to collaborate and tackle key challenges. We can include all these people like governments, academia, public services, to collaborate to tackle challenges. For example, fake news. It's a challenge. It was tackled. It was no people were given training through workshops, Google initiative. Okay, Fact Shala. There are some user groups with particular media literacy requirements that need to be met and challenges that need to be overcome to have a safer online experience. Okay, because you have access to internet, you are on social media, no things can be worse. Okay, you can experience cyberbullying, you can experience hack, your account may get hacked also. Okay, online bullying, cyber crimes. Okay, users who are vulnerable to this disproportionate abuse, these users need to be supported and upskilled in the areas of media literacy that can protect them online. How to be your online presence? Okay, how is your online presence? Are you very vulnerable? If you are very vulnerable, you will be no online. You will be bullied online. Vulnerable users who are already vulnerable to certain harms online, need strengthened media literacy skills in those areas. Inability to critically evaluate information with regard to any maybe advertisements, offers. I have learned a lesson for my life. I never go for offers, even if it is costly. Better to buy costly thing. Going for offers only leads you in will not give you a good feeling. Okay, 40% of users do not have skills to critical assess online content and need to be upskilled. In order to upskill, you need to give training. Okay, training. Online application of media literacy. All user groups struggle to apply media literacy knowledge and skills to the online environment and need support. In order to apply, it requires a lot of time. You need to spend time. Spend time in reading, spend time in reflecting, spend time in responding. It's not no like flipping through the pages of a newspaper or scrolling. You need to spend time. Misinformation and disinformation. Why are we talking about disinformation and misinformation? Because we are in information society. We are in information society. Hence, information literacy has to be taken into serious. Misinformation means misleading information that which is very wrong. That may be wrong. Okay, misinformation. It is to mislead. Okay, mislead the person from the information. Whereas disinformation is deliberately done, purposefully written, purposefully done about a particular issue or incident. Okay, purposefully written wrongly. Information literacy means it's building audience resilience to mis and disinformation is one of the most critical tools available for tackling the challenge. This is addressed through information literacy, which means it's a part of media literacy. Information literacy covers the skills and knowledge users specifically need to consume content online. Information literacy includes critical thinking, understanding the news. Okay, understanding the news, not only just the news, it's the forms, the structure, the style, the language, the coining of the words, why only that particular word has been used. Understanding the value of journalism, what are the values of the journalism maintained, understanding how the online environment operates, awareness that not everything they encounter in the online environment is true or reflective of reality. Social media is easy. Social media has larger scope for fake news, whereas it is not the case with the traditional media, where everything is verified. Types of effects. Most of the attention about media effects focuses on the behavior of individuals. Very much seen with regard to your thinking, your feeling, your acting. Okay, your action. Suppose after having watched a particular film, You are very much impressed with the beard of a hero. So you will try to practice it. Okay, that means there is an effect on your behavior. Okay, for example, there is a belief that watching violence will lead people to behave aggressively. Okay, just because hero hit, then the same thing is been practiced. That's a belief. Such things no may happen. That watching crime will make people go out and commit the crimes they witness in media messages. While many media effects show up as behaviors, there are many non-behavioral types of media effects, such as cognitive, belief, attitudinal, physiological, and emotional effects. Also, we need to think beyond effects on individuals. Consider effects on more macro things such as society and institutions. And there is effect on society. There is effect on institutions. Okay, there is effect on institutions. Okay, now we'll go one by one with regard to effects. Give me a moment, students. The first one is cognitive type effects. A cognitive media effect occurs when media exposure influences a person's mental processes or the product of those mental processes. Media exposure, you are exposed to a particular news item. Okay, you're exposed to a particular television news story. Okay, it stirs your thinking. Mental process means thinking. So after having thought about a particular issue, you will come to formulate a particular idea about it or a particular judgment about it. The cognitive effect that is easiest to document is the acquisition of factual information from media messages, particularly from books, newspapers, television news stories, and informal websites. Okay, for factual information, especially with regard to statistics. So what is the percentage of poverty that is being present in India and in states? What is the HDI index of Andhra Pradesh or Telangana? So these factual information, we can easily document them. Why we can easily document? Because we have humans have the faculty of mind to remember, to memorize. However, the human mind can do far more than memorize. It can transform information into knowledge. Knowledge means when you put into practice the information, when you share your information with others. Explain it, then it becomes knowledge. This transformation of information can take the form of inferring patterns across media messages. So you have the information, that freedom of press index. Now I'm not sure it's 142 or 138. Okay, why it has fallen? So information is the India falls into 138 or 142 number. That is the information. How can you convert it into knowledge? So do a analysis on it, study about it, why it has fallen, infer your own meanings about it, then it becomes knowledge. The human mind can also group media messages in different ways to create new meanings. One person can generate number of meanings. There is no, it's unlimited. It can unlimited. I mean to say to the extent that he or she can generate. It can generalize beyond media messages to generate principles about real life. Sometimes you can learn lessons from it and formulate your own life principles. All of these mental activities are cognitive effects on individual. Here means to say, so you know, like sometimes we say, I have learned from my experience. Or certain statements can be made by having access to that particular message. For example, as I said, powerful people can have control over news media. they can suppress the news. It's a learning for you. It's an insight. It's a knowledge from the point of view of cognitive effect. Okay, next is belief type effects. Belief type effects. Anjay Garu, are you able to follow?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Next is belief type effects. A belief is faith that something is real or true. Something is real or, for example, most humans have beliefs about the meaning of life, how we should treat one another, what happens when we die, and the existence of a supreme deity. Okay, when we talk about belief and faith, certainly religion comes into picture. Okay, Christians believe that they have life after death. Okay, life after death. Hindus believe on karma. Okay, they have their own beliefs. Each individual has his or her own belief. Even the people who do not believe in particular religion also have belief. That's why they are agnostics. Okay, the media influence our beliefs both immediately and over the long term. As for an immediate belief type effect, the media continually shows public figures who exhibit a particular belief. We often accept those beliefs and make them our own. Make them our own. I repeat, the media continually shows public figures who exhibit a particular belief. Okay, a particular belief. Okay, no, you take for example any prominent person. Okay, this person is believing, hence I also try to believe. Okay, try to believe because he's giving a testimony. He is giving a testimony. We often accept those beliefs and make them our own without any critical thinking. Without any critical thinking. For example, fictional stories. Fictional stories. Just give fictional stories. We are not number of fictional stories. Do you think that no Avatar? There is a wonderful world in Avatar film. Such a hyper reality exists. But through fictional characters, fictional stories, they make us believe that that particular hyper reality exists. Okay. Okay. We can acquire beliefs from fictional characters as well as from real people. However, we typically construct our beliefs over the course of a long-term process in which we continually observe how real people as well as fictional characters exhibit their beliefs through actions. Then we consider how the consequences of their actions affect them. Our beliefs are not easily changed or formed. Okay, we try to compare and contrast how they are represented on media and how they are practiced, okay, by real people. Okay, having this correlation between these two, we try to form beliefs and have effect on our beliefs. Next one is attitudinal type effects. Attitudes are evaluative judgments about things. Okay, as I said in the previous class, it is very easy to make a general statement, general judgment without thinking. That's the easiest thing that we do. But in order to have evaluative judgments, needs time for thinking, time for reflection, time for reviewing. Okay, we compare the thing, a person or a song or a political position, etc., to our standard. Okay, because we have a frame of reference in our mind. If a particular person is behaving according to my if a particular person is behaving according to my expectations, according to my standards, then he is good. Whatever he or she does is good, even if she or he makes blunders. But the other person if he or she is not doing according to my expectations, according to my according to my standards, whether he does extremely well, he's not good. We make a judgment. We create an attitude towards that particular person. He is that, she is that. That is the attitude type effect that we have through media. We can listen to a political pundit, religious leader, or attractive character expresses an evaluated judgment and simply accepts that attitudes are our own. Yes, that is true. Just because I like a religious leader, whatever he says, I cannot accept easily. But some people tend to follow blindly, and make that particular attitude their own. Attitudes rely on beliefs because beliefs are often the standards we use when making our evaluative judgments. I said, so when I know, for example, certain students come on butter to get good marks. So I have my own standards to assess students. Okay, this girl is only for marks. This girl focuses on education, focuses on analysis, focuses on research. Okay, we have our own standards to assess and form an attitude about a person or have an attitude towards a person. For example, after years of observing glamorous men and women in Bollywood movies, fashion magazines, and internet sites, we come to believe that we need to be tall and thin with six-pack abs and thick hair to be considered attractive. For example, you want to get a chance in films. So, in order to get a chance in films, what is the general image that is created outside is you need to be very fair, thin, slim, you need to have six packs. These are the myths that are created. But is it true? It is not true. Go and see Tamil Nadu film industry. Are they fair? Lawrence fair? But he has done wonderful films like Kanchana, Style, Mass, wonderful films. While we know this is an impossible standard for everyone to achieve, we still use this standard when evaluating the attractiveness of the people we see as well as what we see about ourselves in the mirror. Okay. Though we are not meeting the expectations of slimness or fairness, but we expect others to be like that. When we introspect our own selves, we find that particular attitude in us. Few people can live up to this unrealistic standard. So we hold attitudes that people around us are all unattractive because none of them can live up to the unrealistic standards of attractiveness set by the media. Okay. Let me check how many slides are there. One. Okay. Lost. Next one is emotional type effects. The media exert an emotional type effect by making us feel things. So emotional is related to your feelings. They can trigger strong emotions such as fear and rage. Smoking and drinking is injurious to health. How many other times we put in the films, it has not made any change, but it is a statutory need to mention that. They can also evoke weaker emotions such as sadness and boredom. Emotional reactions are related to physiological changes. In fact, some theoreticians argue that emotions are nothing more than physiological arousal that we label. So when you are anger, so your anger is very visibly shown on your face. Some people get their red eyes, some people shiver, some people sweat, some people body shivers, full rage. In fact, some theoreticians argue that emotions are nothing more than physical arousal that we label. If a character on YouTube video triggers a very high level of arousal in us, we might label this feeling we experience as love, or we might label it as a hate. It depends on whether we are positive or negative about the character. Certain times when the films, certain characters cry, something happens to us also, we also get no resonate with the scene and we start crying, emotionally get affected, something triggered with regard to your emotions, with regard to your that which is seen physically. The media also exert long-term emotional effects. One long-term emotional effect is desensitization. Over years of watching violence in the media, which rarely show victim suffering and instead focus on the perpetrators of the violence and how attractive they are. Exactly, the victim suffering is not shown, but how the perpetrators of the violence and how attractive they are shown. We gradually come to lose the ability to feel sympathy for the victims. Over the days, what happens? We don't focus on the victim, but focus on the fellow who has given rise to that particular action. We might regard the homeless as people who are victims of their own bad judgment and who don't deserve much sympathy from us. This is the emotional type effect that we have from the media, This is what for today, dear students. If you have any questions, kindly let me know. We have 3 more minutes. Any questions, Anjay Garu?
Sir, no, sir, no question, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.